Hey guys, this is Andrea with ADS here to bring you the very best in marketing and branding tips, as well as business tips for those of you who are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and personal branders. And today I am so elated to bring you my best practices, my top 10 best practices for Clubhouse moderating. And that is the Clubhouse app. It is a new big thing as of February 2021 to a lot of people. It's not even open to Android users yet. I am an Android girl at the moment. However, I am on this thing with my little iPad mini, and so it works for that. So until it gets to Android world, I'm trying to keep all of you guys up to date on what's going on and everything you need to know. So today we're talking about the best practices for moderating, and I've got 10 tips for you. Let's get through these right now. Okay, and first of all, I am trying to get my Canon camera, this new Canon camera I got to work, and I tested it out for the first time yesterday and did this whole video already, and the audio didn't work. So, here I am today. You're just getting me after my workout, so oh well. Such is life. But if you're watching this if you're listening to this on podcast, no worries. You have nothing to worry about. Those of you on YouTube, get over it. This is just a regular day, but whatever. The big thing are these tips. So tip number one. Tip number one is the goal of moderating. The goal of moderating is to think of yourself, and I love this analogy so much, as a dinner host. You are the dinner host of this party, and this is your house. These are your rules. It is your job as dinner host to make everyone feel comfortable, make everyone feel at ease, give everyone a voice at the table, literally at the table. So everyone who comes up to speak, you want them to have a good experience. You don't want them waiting too long because they could be in the middle of their workday. They could be waiting to get dinner started. They could be in Australia and it's 1 a.m. and they are just last minute hoping to get in here, but you might, if you've got a big long stage and it's hard for them to get up there, it could be a bad experience for them if they're waiting. So your job, dinner host, is to set the rules, keep the promise of the room, which is the title of the room. So if you made a topic such as, we had a topic yesterday about top website design tips. The minute someone gets in that room, into that party, wherever they enter the party, you want to make sure that they are experiencing that topic. So don't let your people get too off subject, because if someone's in there for a minute and you're going on and on about your vacation and all this small talk, you're not delivering to the promise of the room. So it's very, very important, dinner hosts, i.e. moderators, to keep everyone on topic as much as possible. So if anyone's veering, it's your job to get them back on track. Okay. And also the point of Clubhouse and why it is so popular in the first place is because people love to be heard. They want their voice to be heard. And so your job, moderator, is to make sure that everyone who comes up on stage, everyone who raises their hand to get up there, they need a spot to be heard. So you need to recognize people. You need to make sure the movement is continuing. We're not lingering on one person's topic for too long, one person's story, etc. Get around to everyone on stage. Then, once you've gone through everyone, you might have some time to banter back and forth and discuss things amongst everyone, depending on how big your room is. But remember, again, I can't stress it enough. You're the dinner host. It's your experience. Your job to make sure that everyone comes away with a good feeling. They learned something. They were helped in some way. You provided value through your topic and they left feeling good. They met some friends, all that good stuff. Just like at a dinner party or any kind of party, you don't want the wallflowers, except for if people mean to be wallflowers, they will stay in the audience, which is fine because some people are working. Again, they could just be listening passively. They're not in a position to come up on stage to speak, and that's okay. So, regardless, if they do come up on stage, no wallflowers. Everyone has an opportunity to speak. Again, your job as a dinner host. Point number 2 is about educating. So you're going to need to educate your people. especially if you ever see people with party hats. And again, if all this is unfamiliar and it's your first time hearing about Clubhouse, go back to video 1. I will link that in the cards above and also in the description below. You want to check all that because I'm going to give you all the Clubhouse parlance, the verbiage, the wording, everything you need to know. All that will be in there and all the basics. But this is about Clubhouse moderating, how to run a room. So educating, you'll have to educate, especially the new people. There will be lots of new people for months and months and months, probably through the year and then after that. So if you ever notice people with party hats, that little celebration emoji that's at the corner of people's profile pics, they are new. You're going to need to make sure you look for them in the room. And even if they don't have a party hat, some people have lost their party hats because they've technically been on the app for more than 7 days, but they could still be new to Clubhouse, as in they hadn't really gotten active until just now. So you just want to always make those blanket statements to people so they know if you want to come up on stage, you have to raise your hand. You have to click the little raise your hand button to come up. To ping people into the room, i.e. invite people to the party, you have to click the little plus sign at the bottom, and then you can search for people even by keywords. You know, if you're doing a room about website design and maybe you just want entrepreneurs in the space, or even if you want to invite other developers or designers, graphic designers, brand strategists, you can search for all those keywords in those profiles, and whoever is active on the app at the time, you can ping them, invite them into the room. So you have to explain those things. You also have to explain things like muting your mic when you come on stage, because as of now, and hopefully this changes, but as of now, mics are hot when you go on stage. They're live, they're on, and people have to actively mute themselves so that you don't hear babies crying and dogs barking and dishes clanging and all other kinds of things people do while they're waiting to be heard on Clubhouse. So those are all the kinds of things you'll have to educate people on. You'll also have to educate them on the rules of your room, the flow, how things are going, and all that good stuff. So that is another job for you as a moderator of a room. Point number 3 is back channels. So you're going to want to also have back channels for your moderators to participate in. And this is important because sometimes you can't talk while someone's going on and on stage, and someone may have to leave, someone may be causing a problem on stage, and there's all kinds of things that you just need a way to talk to each other while the conversation is happening at the dinner table, so to speak, in the room. So you're going to want to create a little back channel, backstage area, ideally on a place like Instagram, since Clubhouse connects to Instagram and most people have an Instagram account. And that's where you can connect everyone either in a group, or you can just let your moderators know. They can DM you in there. That's just a good place. And this becomes even more important the bigger the rooms get, I think. So moderators have a chance to have a dialogue with each other behind the scenes, and they can troubleshoot problems as they come up. Trolls, people who come up on stage and cause problems immediately, you're gonna have to get rid of people like that, all that good stuff. So it's just a good way to have an opportunity to communicate with each other while the room is going on. So have a backstage area, back channel area for you to chat. Point number 4 is to prep your tips and speaker prompt questions. So the last thing you want to have at a dinner party is awkward silence. So you always want to have your questions and your speaker prompts ready. Points, tips that you can add in of value, the little gems you want to drop throughout your hour or however long you're going to be having your party. Most good dinner parties go for 2 or 3 hours, honestly. And then Clubhouse is known for those big, long marathon rooms that can go for hours and hours and days on end, seriously. So not that those are the kinds of rooms that I care to run, because I just don't. However, for sure, 2 to 3 hours is a nice dinner party size. So if that is your room, you're definitely going to want to make sure that you keep the conversation going, flowing with all those good tips and ideas. So it's a good idea beforehand to kind of sketch out just some bullet points of things you can talk about along the way. If there happens to be some lulls in the conversation, you can interject your next point and have that ready, and also have questions ready, really nice, good, thought-provoking questions for your panelists. So just like in the real world, you can think of this as a moderator for a panel for people at a conference on stage. You know, it's very similar kind of a thing. So it's your job to keep that conversation going in a way that adds value to those who are listening. All right. So have those speaker tips, prompts, gems at the ready so you can draw upon them at any time when needed. Trust me, you'll thank me for that one. Next is PTR and PTR order. So there's plenty of ways that you can run a room. It's all up to you. It's your house, your rules, your dinner party. You are running it. However, my preference is for PTR order, and PTR means pull to refresh. So if you're in Clubhouse and on stage, putting your finger on the little stage and swiping down, you'll see it refreshing, just like you can refresh a website page online. You can pull to refresh the room and it will reorder everyone on stage. And it's important that everyone does this at the same time when you tell them to PTR or pull to refresh, because you want people looking at the same order on stage. Your moderators need to see the same order in case they're helping to prompt a speaker to speak next. That's not a moderator. And your speakers will want to see that order because they can think that they're next and they're really not because of this PTR thing. So why does the order change invariably? It's because people are in and out of rooms and they're in and off stage. They leave the room quietly, they come back, they're back on stage, and so that kind of messes up the order. So you're always having to kind of pull to refresh. People also use that to change up their their avatars, their profile pics. It's the only visual thing that you have on Clubhouse. So people will do that just to kind of change up the atmosphere. They'll do it to play games. We've seen people when Paris Hilton was a big deal on Clubhouse for a minute, people were all changing their pictures to different Paris Hilton pics. Some people were all changing their pics to rubber duckies for some reason in a room at some point. When someone famous dies, like Cicely Tyson in a room that we were running, everyone was changing out their pictures to Cicely's, their favorite Cicely Tyson picture. So those are things you can do, but you have to pull to refresh to see the new pictures. So that's another reason to PTR. But whichever way you do all this, PTR is a good way to go about your speaker order. And also, some people have done this popcorn style where you kind of tap your mic, and that's supposed to let the speakers or moderators know that you want to speak. And so this is not going in PTR order. This is just kind of as people want to talk. The problem with that is, not everyone's great at interjecting and getting their voice in there. It kind of gives people a sense of peace knowing where they are in the lineup. So I recommend a little bit of a hybrid of this. Do the PTR order so people know when they can go, when they can speak, but allow a bit of interaction as it makes sense. Again, you are in control of the room. You control all of this, but it's important to communicate all of this so people understand what's going on and what's expected in your room. Got it? Good. All right, next are the mechanics, how to bring people up, take people down, mute mics, all that good stuff. So you can, when you are moderating a room, if you do not know this yet already, you can click on people who are in the audience, i.e. not on stage, and you can click on them and invite them to speak. You'll see that button pop up after you click on their face, and then you see an option to invite them to speak. That will have them come up on stage if they agree to it. If they don't, you'll see a note that says they decline to offer right now. They're not in a position to speak. Totally fine. It lets you know, hey, they can't speak right now. Totally fine. So you can invite people up. You can also move people back down to the audience. So when people are done speaking, becomes a little bit more important the bigger your room gets. You might want to keep your stage clean and move people off when they're done speaking if you only want them to have one opportunity to speak. However, I think really the only reason to do that in a smaller room, to move people off stage, is really to get rid of problems. So if you ever have a problem in your room, I have not had this yet, but I have seen it happen a couple times in some rooms. People kick people off the stage, as they say, when they become a problem, if they become a problem. So if they're, just causing problems randomly, they're just yelling out obscenities as soon as they come on stage. Or, one time I was in a room and I heard someone immediately say shut up, you don't know what you're talking about, la la la. And they just said that for no reason as soon as they got on stage. So they call those people trolls. They're just in there causing trouble and being disruptive and, for just because they can. So that is a good reason to know why you should move people down back to the audience. But otherwise, dinner party, if you're in a small room, 20, 25 people, that's a pretty good size for people who are just starting out with their rooms. And I think it's nice and intimate. People love those intimate rooms. So if that's about the size of room that you plan to host, you probably won't have those problems. You'll probably want most people in the room on stage with you, maybe a couple people in the audience here and there, but it's really, a dinner party involves everyone. So everyone has a chance to speak up and say something if they like. But that's important to know. Bringing people up stage, putting them back down to the audience, letting people know about raising their hands, muting mics, all of those things are mechanics of a room to be aware of. Here's another point, very, very important. You will notice in a lot of bigger rooms, people say, follow all the moderators on stage. They'll say that and they'll say, Clubhouse is different because it's more important who you follow, not who follows you. And that's because the rooms that you see in your hallway are there based on the people you are following. So if you love this room and you love the people who are speaking, you should follow all the moderators so that you can see their rooms. The problem with this is it's a little bit disingenuous because generally the moderators don't follow people back, especially, the bigger they get. If they have 40,000 followers already, they tend to not follow people. And also currently there is a follow limit. So you can only follow 2.5K people max. And after that, you kind of tap out. So it's a little disingenuous. I'll say that because I also came across a poor guy who was listening to all these people say, follow all the moderators. And he just got in this culture habit of following all the moderators because everyone said to do that in every room that he was in. And after a while, you know what his numbers looked like on his account? He was following like 1.9K people. And guess how many people were following him? 90. So sad. It's so wrong. Do not tell people to follow all the moderators. I think it's tasteless. I don't think it's classy. Okay, so here's the tasteful, classy way that I think at this moment, subject to change depending on rules, but at this moment, I think the tasteful, classy way to do this is to say, by the way, if you're loving this room, if you're loving the value that we're bringing you, what you should do is check out everyone on stage, especially the moderators, because they are taking their time to be here with us and to share their expertise with us. So check them out, click on their profiles, check out their bio, go to their Instagram, check them out there. If you like what you see, you can follow them. Follow them on Instagram, follow them here on Clubhouse. You can click that little bell that lets people know. You can go to always, so you always get the notifications of whatever rooms they're in, sometimes or never. But obviously, if you like what they're saying, you may want to check that bell to always, so that you always hopefully see their rooms. Of course, there's no guarantees of that because the algorithm is still being developed. So that's generally what I tell people. It's just a good idea to check out the moderators, also check out the speakers on stage, and also check out the people to the left and right of you in the audience and above and below you in the audience, because you never know who's around and it might be a cool connection. So that's a great way to encourage people to connect with everyone, whether they're a moderator or a speaker or they're just listening. All right, so that's the way I like to handle it, and hopefully that works for you. All right, point number 8 is to always acknowledge people's comments. Again, the point of Clubhouse is allowing people to be heard. They are there, and it is so addictive because everyone wants to be heard. And so when someone has just spoken on your stage, in your room, at your dinner party, do not just say, thanks, Stacy, next, next, next. Sad. No. That shows you were not listening. It shows you have no empathy. It shows you do not care what they said. You just wanted to give them their space on the stage, and you're just trying to get through people like a little factory line. No, we are trying to get through people, but it is so important to show that you were listening. So you need to try to actively listen. You need to encourage your moderators to actively listen. There's nothing worse than someone just poured their heart out on stage, or they were just so vulnerable about a problem that they're facing, and they're coming there really honestly for your help with something because you asked for questions, and then someone has to say, can you please rephrase that? Which is code for, we don't really either. Truthfully, we really didn't understand what you were saying or asking, but oftentimes it's code for, I'm sorry, you finished early and we weren't really listening, so we don't know what to say yet. Okay, so please do actively listen. Please do acknowledge everyone who speaks, even if you just mention one thing about what they said, and acknowledge it in some way. Thank them for it. Empathize with them. I've experienced that too. Yeah, that's a great point. Or actually, I think this. Anything that lets them know you care and you listened. It's very important. No one wants to get up there and share and pour their heart out a bit. Not that everything is always a pour your heart out moment, but you are giving of your energy. You gave of your time to be on stage. You need to acknowledge that for every single speaker. All right, so don't forget that. I can't emphasize this enough. Acknowledge every single speaker. Please, please do that. Do it well. Do it well. It makes a difference, okay? Next, and so critical, and this is one that I am still getting better at myself, and I think all of us are getting better at this. Some are better than others, but you are gonna have to learn to be a great moderator on Clubhouse, the art of interrupting. Interjecting, interrupting, you've got to be able to do it. And there are so many little methods. This is what I use for Clubhouse, my little iPad minis. My mic is down here. Sometimes that means bringing the mic really close so you can talk directly into it, and it's your voice becomes a bit more dominant in the space. Sometimes you need that physical elevation of your audio in order for people to pay attention and to cut through the noise that's in the room, especially if there's a lot of back and forth banter and dialogue happening and you need to cut in for whatever reason. Sometimes people will go on and on and on and on. They are just very long-winded, and you got lots of other people on stage and you might be on a time crunch, or just people have been waiting for so long. Always be mindful of how long people have been waiting on your stage to speak, especially if you're doing the PTR order thing. There is nothing worse, and this happens in very big rooms. If you get on stage in a very big room, and by very big, I mean like thousands of people in the room, 1.6K, 2.5K or higher, or even in a room where it's hundreds of people and the stage has, this is still a thing right now, the stage has 30 moderators and 25 speakers, and in a stage like that where everyone's taking 5-7 minutes between a comment that a speaker makes and then 2 or 3 moderators are chiming in with their comments, that whole session to get through one person can take 10 minutes, and you got 20 other people on stage. I mean, that's time starts stacking up. So there are going to be times where you're going to need to cut off someone who is going on way too long, or if they're going on a tangent that has nothing to do with your topic. Again, remember, part of your job as a dinner host, a room moderator, a Clubhouse moderator, is to keep people on track, on task, on topic. So if someone starts going off tangent and someone just came into your room and now you're talking about something, someone's crying on stage, or they're talking about something, some suicide story where they almost killed themselves. This stuff happens on Clubhouse. They go through this big old sob story and they start crying on stage. I mean, that can be real, but sometimes some of those same people tell that same sob story in every dang room. I know because I've seen it. So, and it starts to get old and it starts to get annoying after a while because, again, it's off topic and it's not serving the room. They're doing it because, in other rooms, people have said, I want to pray for you. Let me help you. And, they're starting to cash app them money, and that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing on Clubhouse. People do that for all kinds of reasons. And again, this is why it's so important to learn the art of interrupting. So what you can say to someone is say, hey, Sarah, just repeat their name and say, this is exactly how I do it. Where's my, Sarah. Yeah. It was this way. Thank you for your comment. And if you would, could you please tell us how this relates to the topic today of top website design tips? We just want to keep everyone on task. We've got a lot of other people on stage who want to speak. So if you could let us know the lesson of your story, what you learned from it, and how that relates to the topic, we'd all really very much appreciate it. It feels a little harsh to do that, but everyone is going to appreciate you for it because they were all thinking it too. So they're just happy that they didn't have to do it. And they're so grateful that somebody stepped in and did it because they were like, oh my God, this chick is going on forever and ever and ever. Or this dude is going on and on about his Tonka truck toy experience when he was 5. And what does this have to do with today? You know, sometimes you just have to help people speed it along so that they know, oh, snap, I'm going a little too long. And be a little gentle, especially with newer people, because it takes a while to learn to be succinct. You know, Clubhouse is a different style of chatter, and not every room is conducive for big, long sessions of speaking by one person because of the fact that we need to share the mic. You know, there's one mic ideally at a time, and you have to share it around. So that's just very, very important. I can't emphasize this enough. You're gonna have to learn how to interject and interrupt tastefully. Okay? The point of all this is with taste and with tact. Finally, closing the room. Closing the room, this is kind of another mechanical point, but closing the room, you're going to want to, okay, start using language like we're winding the room down. It's time, you know, so you might let people know if you have one last question, this is the time to get on stage, and then we're going to lower the hand raising. We're going to turn off hand raising. So that's a capability. You can turn off hand raising in your room, and you want to let people know that. Sometimes that's very necessary if you're in a very active room with a lot of people in the audience and the conversation is really good. People are going to want to keep coming up on stage, but your moderators and you may have been there for hours, 2-3 hours at a time or more sometimes, depending on how long the room is, if it's in your evening or whatever. And, at some point the room has to wind down, lest you're in one of those really big, huge marathon rooms that are, got 30 moderators on stage and they're taking turns all over the world holding down the stage. But chances are in your smaller, more intimate, nicer rooms that everyone appreciates, you're not going to do a marathon room. So you're going to need to wind the room down at some point, and you just start using that language. We're about to close the room in a while, so we want to make sure we get all your points in. And another good thing I like to do is to give people a leaving tip, so just giving your moderators who are there with you a heads up, that, hey, we're about to close the room down. So moderators on stage, I want you to be thinking about your last final tip, just one quick good tip you want to leave everyone with as we are closing the room. And, you just talk a little bit longer so they can have a little time to think about that. And then you start down the line quick tips so your moderators can get through their tips and their last final comments of the day. And then it's always nice, I think, for whoever's left on stage with you, other speakers who aren't moderators, give them a chance to chat as well. So that's closing the room. One last thing I forgot to mention is with the PTR section, when you are doing the whole pull to refresh thing, that is often also a good time to do what's called reset the room. And reset the room just means you are putting people back on task. And this is a good time to do it when you notice that there are new people coming into the room. There's fresh blood coming in, so to speak. And so you're going to want to make sure people know, like, hey, you are in top website design tips you wish you always knew. And, here I am with my moderators, and we've been talking about some really great tips. And so if you have a question or tips, you can come on up on stage, This is a good time to share like all your little rules, any housekeeping things you want to share before you go on to the next comments. Boom, I'm done. That's everything for today. My top 10 best practices for Clubhouse moderating. Leave your comments below. Definitely want to know your tips. If you're on Clubhouse, definitely come say hi to me. I'm Miss ADS08, MISSADS, like ads like advertising 08. And you can follow my business, the ADS Agency, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, on podcasts as well. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and also subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts, okay? And leave us a review because we love reading those. Thank you so much for everyone who leaves their comments. Cherished every single one of them. All right, and we are out of here. Thank you, darlings. And if you're watching this live, don't forget to check out the Hello Spring Challenge going on right now, kicking off on the 13th. 8 days of fun. We're doing it all on TikTok. See you, cuties.